Today we speak of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, a conflict that Israel calls its war of independence, and for Palestinians, it is the Nakba, meaning the catastrophe. To understand this war, we will journey through historical archives, aiming to comprehend its pivotal events, the backdrop, and its immediate consequences. We will explore the United Nations partition plan, the end of the British Mandate, the establishment of Israel, the invasion by Arab nations, the war's turning points, and of course, the Nakba. After the First World War, the region of Palestine came under the British Mandate and administrative responsibility granted by the League of Nations. Already home to both Arab and Jewish populations, tensions between them were steadily growing. This tension would only escalate with time, culminating in November 1947 when the United Nations proposed a plan to partition Palestine into two states, one Arab and one Jewish. The world's reaction to the plan was mixed. It was not universally accepted. While 33 nations voted in favor, 13 opposed it, and 10 countries abstained. The division of the land itself was a point of contention. The plan allocated approximately 55% of the territory to the proposed Jewish state and 45% to the Arabs, despite the Arab population being the majority at the time. In response, the Jewish leadership accepted the plan, but the Arab League and Palestinian representatives rejected it outright, viewing it as fundamentally unjust. Following this rejection, tensions in the region skyrocketed. It can indeed be said that immediately after the partition plan was announced, long before the British Mandate officially ended,
the situation began to deteriorate into a state of civil war. In the final 6 months of the Mandate, from November 1947 to May 1948, intense clashes erupted. On one side were the Jewish armed organizations such as the Haganah, Irgun, and Lehi. These groups were more organized and would later merge to form the Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, under the leadership of figures like David Ben-Gurion. On the other side were the Palestinian Arabs, represented by the Arab Liberation Army, a volunteer force created by the Arab League, along with various local militias that were not as well organized. It was amidst this violent atmosphere that the tragic event of Deir Yassin occurred in April 1948. In this village near Jerusalem, the Irgun and Lehi, Jewish paramilitary groups, launched an attack. Reports indicate that over 100 Palestinian civilians, including women and children, were killed. This event spread intense fear and panic among the Palestinians. Its impact was profound. It created a wave of terror through the Palestinian population, causing many to flee their homes in fear that they would suffer the same fate. This is considered one of the key events that triggered the Nakba, the mass displacement of Palestinians. Simultaneously, it provoked deep grief and anger throughout the Arab world. As the situation rapidly worsened, the 14th of May 1948 arrived. At midnight, the British Mandate officially came to an end. That very afternoon, in Tel Aviv, David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. The very next day, on May 15, 1948, 5 neighboring Arab countries invaded the new State of Israel. These nations were Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, joined by a small contingent from Saudi Arabia.
The narrative often presented, that of a tiny new state attacked by 7 countries. However, the military balance at the outset was not so one-sided. This perception is a simplification. Initially, the numerical difference wasn't vast. It is estimated that the combined Arab allied forces numbered around 23,000 to 25,000 troops. Meanwhile, the Israeli forces, now called the IDF, also numbered around 30,000 at the beginning. While the numbers were comparable initially, the difference lay in organization, training, and, perhaps most critically, command and control. Over time, especially during the first ceasefire, Israel rapidly expanded its military strength. Let's discuss the various fronts of the war, starting with Jerusalem, which was of immense importance to both sides. Jordan's Arab Legion, considered the finest army in the Arab world at the time, captured the fortress of Latran, which
is sat on the main road connecting Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. By doing so, they effectively cut off the path to Jerusalem. Fierce fighting also raged within the city, especially in the Old City. Finally, on May 28, 1948, the Jewish quarter of the Old City fell to the Arab Legion.
Sources suggest that the Arab Legion protected the surrendering Jewish fighters and civilians from agitated mobs, taking them as prisoners of war, though there were later reports of some looting. The Israelis attempted to break this siege, launching several unsuccessful attacks on Latrun. However, they managed to build a difficult, makeshift path through the mountains, known as the Burma Road. This allowed them to deliver some level of supplies to West Jerusalem, boosting the morale of the Jewish population there. While that was the situation in Jerusalem, what was happening on other fronts? In the south, the Egyptian army began its advance from the Gaza Strip, moving north along the coast. Their likely target was Tel Aviv, but they were halted by Israeli defenses at Ashdod, just south of Tel Aviv. Jewish settlements like Far Duram also offered stiff resistance. In the north, Syrian forces attempted to cross the Jordan River and enter the Galilee region, but they too faced strong resistance and could not advance far. The actions of Lebanese and Iraqi forces were also limited. The Iraqi army achieved some success in the Jenin area, but overall, the Israeli defense on the northern front also held firm. A turning point in the war came with the first truce. In June 1948, through the efforts of the United Nations, the first ceasefire came into effect. It began on June 11th and lasted for about a month.
While it was ostensibly for both sides to catch their breath, Israel benefited from it the most. During this ceasefire, Israel received a significant amount of heavy weaponry, especially from Czechoslovakia, including planes, tanks, and artillery. They reorganized their army, recruited new soldiers, and their numbers swelled to approximately 65,000. Meanwhile, an arms embargo was more strictly enforced on the Arab nations, preventing them from strengthening their positions to the same degree. So when the truce ended, Israel was in a much stronger position. Indeed, the military balance had clearly shifted in Israel's favor. As soon as the ceasefire concluded, Israel launched a series of aggressive campaigns, which they refer to as the 10 Days Battles. During these operations, such as Operation Dani and Operation Dekel, Israel captured significant territory. They seized the important Arab cities of Lydda and Ramlah and also made advances in the Galilee region. Intermittent fighting and further ceasefires continued afterwards. The Negev Desert region was the focus of later campaigns. In October 1948, Operation Yoav and then Operation Hiram were launched. Through these, Israel gained control over large parts of the Negev Desert, captured the key city of Beersheba, and also brought the remaining parts of Galilee under its control. They cut off the Egyptian army's supply lines and encircled a large portion of it in a location known as the Fallujah Pocket. Inside this pocket was an Egyptian brigade, which included a young officer who would later become Egypt's president, Gamal Abdel Nasser. They remained under siege for months but never surrendered. The final major military action of the war was Operation Horev, conducted in December 1948 and January 1949.
This was the last major offensive against the Egyptian army, during which Israeli forces pushed deep into Egypt's Sinai Desert. However, this move drew immense international pressure, particularly from Britain, which had treaties with Egypt. Britain threatened to intervene, prompting Israeli forces to withdraw from the Sinai. The war did not conclude with a formal peace treaty. Instead, throughout 1949, under the mediation of the United Nations, Israel signed separate armistice agreements with 4 Arab nations: Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria. Iraq did not sign an agreement, but its forces withdrew. These agreements did not establish permanent borders but drew ceasefire lines, often referred to as the Green Line, which marked the positions where the army stood at the war's end. These became Israel's de facto borders. As for the territories, Egypt gained control of the Gaza Strip, while Jordan established its control over the west bank of the Jordan River and East Jerusalem, including the Old City. The remaining area, which constituted approximately 78% of the former British Mandate of Palestine, came under Israeli control, a significant increase from the 55% proposed in the UN plan. The human cost of this war was substantial. An estimated 6,373 Israelis, both soldiers and civilians, were killed. On the Arab side, the casualties were higher, with estimates ranging from 10,000 to 15,000 Palestinian Arabs and soldiers from other Arab nations killed. And then there was the Nakba. For the Palestinians, this catastrophe was the war's most devastating and lasting consequence. Before, during, and immediately after the war, approximately 750,000 Palestinian Arabs were either forced to flee or were expelled from their homes and lands.
This number represented more than half of the Palestinian Arab population at the time. They became refugees in neighboring Arab countries: Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, and in the West Bank and Gaza. Their villages were destroyed or resettled by Jewish inhabitants. Their lands and properties were all left behind. Israel did not permit these refugees to return. The issue of the Palestinian refugees remains unresolved to this day. Many Palestinian families still keep the keys to their old homes. These keys have become a powerful symbol of their hope to return and of their right to their land, a belief that one day they will go back to their homes. This is one of the most potent symbols of the Nakba. Historical sources also highlight the role of photography. Photographs played a part in narrating the story of this war. For instance, John Phillips, a famous photographer for Life magazine, captured images of the fall of the Jewish quarter in Jerusalem and the Jewish refugees leaving it. His photographs were published internationally and helped reinforce the Israeli narrative of a small nation fighting for its survival. On the other side, photographers like Ali Zarour, a Palestinian, documented the displacement of his people, their camps, and their suffering. However, these images did not receive the same international exposure as those of John Phillips. This, in a way, determines the angle from which history is viewed and remembered, whose pictures are seen the most. It demonstrates how the visual memory of history is constructed, with the dominant narrative often being the most prominent. If we were to summarize, the most significant outcomes of the 1948 war were firstly, the establishment of the State of Israel,
and its control over a larger territory than envisaged by the UN plan. Secondly, the creation of the Palestinian refugee problem, the Nakba, which remains a central issue in the Middle East conflict today. And thirdly, this war laid the foundation for all future conflicts in the region, deepening the enmity between Arab nations and Israel. Its effects were not confined to 1948-49. They are still being felt today. This was an event that changed the history and geography of the region forever. And a final question, one that the audience can take with them. How is history remembered? Is it merely a collection of facts and dates, or is it the powerful images, personal stories, and different, sometimes conflicting narratives, like those about Deir Yassin or the fall of the Jewish quarter, that together shape our understanding? And how do these memories continue to influence the conflict today? This is indeed a vital question. History is not just the study of the past, it is a means of understanding the present and shaping the future.